Well, a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Viking.TV, or welcome if it's your first time joining us. My name's Neil, and I'm based in Viking's London office, where I've worked for the past 11 years. And I'm delighted to be here on Wanderlust Wednesdays, telling you about one of my favourite itineraries. Now, I will be available to answer as many questions as I can after the presentation. However, if I can't, then one of my colleagues will do their best to get back to you. But we're heading off to Scandinavia and the Baltic, and it'll be an adventure that takes in the best scenery in Norway, combined with some of the most out-of-this-world spectacular Baltic capitals, as we sit back, relax, and head off on Viking Homelands.
Embark on a 15-day exploration of the Baltic and Northern Europe with Viking. Your adventure begins amidst the shimmering waters and sheltering isles of glorious Stockholm. The White City of the North, Helsinki, awaits you next. Then it's on to the palaces and cathedrals of regal St. Petersburg. Explore Tallinn's picturesque 13th century cobblestone streets. And the remarkably restored old town of Gdansk. Both modern and historic, Berlin will leave a lasting impression. In Copenhagen, experience reminders of a fairy tale past. Discover Aalborg's trendy cafes and shops, and ancient Viking sites. And in Norway, the beauty surrounding Stavanger. Sail through fjordlands to the traditional village of Flom. Your travels through Viking Homelands concludes in the beautiful Hanseatic city of Bergen.
So welcome back. I hope that short video gave you some inspiration on what to expect on this 15-day voyage. It's an ideal itinerary for those looking to experience some of the most iconic cities in the Baltic region, combined with spectacular scenery in the Norwegian fjords, and an opportunity to discover the true homelands of the Vikings on your beautiful, sleek, Scandinavian-inspired Viking ocean ship. So let's take a closer look at this itinerary, which operates between May and September, and we're currently on sale for 2022 and 2023. So there's plenty of time to plan ahead. Although on several dates already, especially in 2022, these sailings are getting very booked up. So please don't delay and have a look at Viking.com for the most up-to-date availability. Now, this voyage operates from Bergen, and we stay in Norway as we visit spectacular Eidfjord and Stavanger before reaching Denmark with a visit to Aalborg in Copenhagen. Travelling further on, we visit Berlin in Germany and Gdansk in Poland, Tallinn in Estonia before reaching St. Petersburg, Russia, where we have an overnight stay on board. It's then on to Finland's capital, Helsinki, before finally reaching Stockholm, Sweden, where we conclude this trip with an overnight stay on board the ship. As you can see, this itinerary ticks so many boxes, and it most definitely is on many people's bucket lists of destinations to visit. Today we'll look at this itinerary starting in Bergen and ending in Stockholm. However, Viking Homelands operates in either direction, so if you prefer, you can also start in Stockholm and finish in Bergen. Sometimes the direction you choose comes down to dates and availability. However, regardless of which direction you choose, you will have an overnight stay on board at the start and finish, and you'll also visit the same destinations regardless of direction. So it makes no real difference which way you choose to travel. The one thing I would say is the sailing into or out of Stockholm is truly spectacular as you sail through this stunning archipelago of islands. Now, starting in Stockholm, you'll navigate these islands mid-afternoon. And if you start in Bergen, you'll navigate these islands in the morning. And that really is the only difference. And you can see this as a destination intensive itinerary with just one sea day on this 15-day voyage. As I mentioned earlier, we operate Viking Homelands between May and September. So when's the best time to travel? The weather can sometimes be mixed in this part of the world, so do expect some showers, but also expect some warm, glorious sunny days. Temperatures can range from around 14 degrees centigrade or 58 Fahrenheit to 22 centigrade or 74 Fahrenheit in the height of the summer. As I always mention, pack in layers, take a waterproof, and don't forget your sunglasses and your sunscreen. And most of all, good, comfortable walking shoes, as there is so much to discover in this cruise. Now, May is a great month as the snow is still on the mountains, and when it melts, it makes the waterfalls truly spectacular. Travel towards the end of June and you have the white nights in St. Petersburg, where the sun never fades. Or think about September, when you can notice the change in seasons as the autumn colours very slowly start to appear. What you can be assured of are long, light days where you can make the most of your time in this part of the world. So before we start in Bergen, we do have to mention a few more Explore More extensions you can add on to your cruise. You can really experience more of this part of the world with our Ultimate Iceland 6-day extension, which enables you to explore Reykjavik, as well as discovering some of the dramatic landscapes, glaciers and waterfalls on this unique island. To discover more of Norway, our Best of Norway 5-day experience is one to think about, where you'll have 2 nights in Norway's capital Oslo, 2 nights in Bergen, one of my favourite cities, and to get between the two, you have this dramatic 7-hour train journey, offering you outstanding views of the Norwegian landscape along the way. Now, if you're travelling on a long-haul flight, especially from the US, Canada, or even further afield in Australia or New Zealand, this may be one to think about, as generally there are more air options into Oslo than there are to Bergen. So it's day one, it's one of my favourite cities, and we're in Bergen, Norway, the gateway to the fjords. And we're docked in a very central location near Old Bryggen in the Hanseatic quarter of the city, a UNESCO World Heritage Site with its brightly coloured wooden houses and cobbled streets. It's approximately a 15-minute walk to take you into the Bryggen area, and the whole area is picturesque, with the city backed by high mountains, glaciers, and of course the magnificent fjord. The city is very accessible on foot, and there's lots of cafes and restaurants and shops to explore. One of our optional excursions lasts for 4 hours, and you get to hike to the top of Mount Floyn, set 1,000 feet above Bergen, for some spectacular 360-degree views of the surrounding area. And then we take the easy route back by the Floyban, which is the funicular railway that will take you back to the foot of the mountain. This is one of my favourite trips, as the views are just out of this world. Our included tour is a 2-hour panoramic tour of the city, where your guide will take you on a journey detailing the history from when Bergen was founded in 1070 AD to present day, taken in such sites as the medieval King Haakon's Hall, the Rosencrantz Tower, and the old buildings in the Bryggen Quarter. And being docked in Bergen overnight allows you time to really get out and explore, soak up the atmosphere of the city late into the evening. Maybe after dinner on board, head off on a long walk around Bergen to walk off any jet lag. After a good night's sleep on board, we have another day in Bergen, giving you the chance to explore more of the city, a home to around 270,000 inhabitants. Now, Bergen, I do need to point out, does have around 200 rainy days per year, but regardless of how the weather turns out, this city has everything to give you a real taste of Norway. For lovers of classical music, Bergen was the birthplace of Ulla Bull, a famous violinist and composer, and also the birthplace and home of composer and pianist Edvard Grieg, composer of the incidental music of Henrik Ibsen's play Peer Gynt, which includes The Hall of the Mountain King and Morning Mood, one of my favourite, most uplifting pieces of music. We have an optional excursion that takes you to Trollhaugen, Grieg's home on the outskirts of Bergen. It's a quiet, peaceful setting, and you can learn more about his work, the cabin he composed most of his works in, and you'll also hear a recital of some of Grieg's work. You'll also get to visit the remarkable Fantoft Stave Church, built entirely of wood in 1150. But let's learn more about Edvard Grieg and his works with a short video.
Majestic scenes on canvas, local culture, music and traditions. In the 19th century, Norwegian Romanticism set out to preserve these elements of national identity. This patriotic movement inspired the imaginations of all Norwegians, including Edvard Grieg, who painted the essence of Norway with music, often incorporating elements of folk songs and always displaying Norway's wildness.
You can hear that he's either on the top of some mountains or he has his back to the mountains and looks out to the sea.
Grieg's love of nature led him to create his own sanctuary, Trollhaugen. In this tranquil setting, his spirit and creativity soared.
Grieg needed to be in the nature. He composed barely nothing when he was in a city.
Grieg spent summers amid this beauty with his wife Nina always at his side, writing fresh and intriguing compositions to take on tour once the snows began to fall.
The winter season Grieg spent down in Europe, and of course he met a lot of influential people there, and he invited them to come back to see him in Norway during the summer. They brought their wives, their children, even their servants.
Grieg's escape was the tiny composer's hut, a place of solitude where he spent countless hours breathing life into notes on paper.
He left his guests in the morning after breakfast and went down there and worked, coming up only for meals. So he wasn't that social with his guests after inviting them.
Today, the composer's hut appears virtually unchanged and includes a subtle reminder that while Grieg is remembered as larger than life, he was actually quite a diminutive man.
When he composed down at the studio, there was an upright, normal piano, and to sit right at the piano he needed to sit on something, and he used to sit on the collected piano sonatas of Beethoven. Luckily for Grieg and us, Beethoven composed 32 sonatas, so it's a fairly thick book.
Edvard Grieg spent 22 summers creating masterpieces while wrapped in the beauty of Trollhaugen. And one wonders what would have come of the man without the place.
Grieg referred to Trollhaugen, his home, as his best opus. It really reflects his personality. You can play Grieg's music everywhere, but the atmosphere, the idea of this man who built the house, that is something that you only can find within these walls. To be here and hear the music where it was created, it's really special.
Edvard Grieg left an amazing musical legacy, and we look forward to sharing with you more about the man and his gift.
Bergen is a very cosmopolitan city, and just a short walk from the ship you'll find the famous fish market and a whole host of cafes and restaurants with lots of outdoor seating to sit and watch the world go by. And after a day exploring, it's time to get back on board, as at 6 p.m. we set sail and head to our next port of call. It's day 3, it's 7 a.m. and we drop anchor in Eidfjord in the Hardanger region. And this is truly one of Norway's most outstanding areas of natural beauty. The images don't do it justice. It's home to Europe's largest mountain plateau, Hardangervidda, and this area is also famous for its impressive waterfalls, some reaching 180 metres in height, and it's also the perfect docking spot to travel on the most famous of train journeys, the Flam Railway. We're anchored in Eidfjord for a full 12 hours, and I would really urge you, where possible, to take advantage of not only the included excursion, but at least one optional to give you a true flavour of fjord Norway. The included excursion, lasting 2 hours, takes you to the Norwegian Nature Centre, and after travelling on your motor coach through some dramatic scenery, we reach the Nature Centre, where you can learn more about the fjords, the mountains, the gorges and glaciers of this impressive region. There's 2 optional excursions I'd like to highlight to enable you to experience the best that this region has to offer. Our kayaking adventure, lasting 3 hours, will take you on your own kayak, getting up close to nature, wildlife and those dramatic waterfalls. And you can see the area from a different perspective with these incredibly tall and steep mountains at either side of you. The second optional excursion is a journey on the famous Flamsbana or Flam Railway. At 20 kilometres long, climbing 3,000 feet and navigating 20 tunnels, this railway is a remarkable feat of engineering. From the ship, you travel by motor coach from the banks of Hardangerfjord and Sognefjord through truly outstanding scenery, stopping at the impressive Tvinda waterfall for a photo opportunity. You then continue on to Flam, where we board the train, changing once at Myrdal before disembarking in the mountain town of Voss, with its snow-capped mountains, forests, lakes and rivers. This is an outstanding excursion and gives you a real feeling of the true Norway. If you're hesitating about which optional to do, my recommendation would be this one, as you won't be disappointed. We set sail at 7 p.m. and my advice is stay on deck or head to the Explorer's Lounge or on your veranda, somewhere with a view, as you have stunning picture postcard scenery as you sail out the fjord. It's day 4 already and we arrive at 7 a.m. in Stavanger, a vibrant university town with lots of cafes and shops. Oil was discovered in the North Sea in the late 1960s, and since then Stavanger is classed as the oil capital of Norway, which brings in much of its income. We're in Stavanger for the morning and early afternoon, which gives you ample time to explore the city and the surrounding region. Our ship docks at Gamla Stavanger, and Gamla literally translates as old, so we dock in the old town with its wooden buildings dating back to the 17th and 18th century. Stavanger is a very compact city, so again it's easy to get around on foot. And our included excursion today, lasting just under 3 hours, is a walking tour of Gamla Stavanger, with its pedestrianised centre and beautifully preserved wooden buildings and cobbled streets. There are many cobbled streets in lots of the cities we visit, so again pack comfortable walking shoes. You'll learn more about the history of this area from your local guide, and you'll also visit the Norwegian Petroleum Museum, where you'll hear about the oil industry in this region, geology and life on board an oil rig. You'll also then have ample time to explore Stavanger independently, knowing that your ship is docked within easy walking distance. We also have a panoramic Stavanger tour by motor coach, which is included if you'd prefer to travel this way rather than walking. As part of our local life programme, join us for a home-hosted visit, during which you'll learn all about Norwegian traditions and the local way of life. Now, Norwegians have long lived close to the earth, making them amongst the most grounded and authentic people you'll ever meet. You may be lucky to have some homemade waffles served by your host, as you're told about the local way of life, from holiday homes to house furnishings to local traditions. For something slightly more demanding and a little different, said to originate from Scotland in the 16th century, why not try your hand at curling? You'll head off to the rink on this optional excursion with your guide, and then after receiving instructions on the game and the various techniques needed, you'll partake in a competitive fun match. It's the perfect conversation starter in the living room bar later that evening. And of course, no visit to Stavanger would be complete without a visit to the famous Pulpit Rock. Our optional Pulpit Rock cruise excursion lasts approximately 3 hours, and you walk a short distance from the ship to board a boat, which will take you through an archipelago of stunning islands until you reach Leysefjord, and you're beneath Pulpit Rock, which sits approximately 2,000 feet above you. The scenery is spectacular. You'll pass some towering waterfalls before enjoying traditional waffles as you disembark at the beach at Hellerum. At 1:30 we leave Stavanger and Norway, and we set sail for Denmark and the town of Aalborg. Before we discover Aalborg, I wanted to take the time to tell you a bit more about the excursion offerings we have on our cruises. First of all, you have an included tour in every port of call, unlike many other cruise companies who will charge you for this. By having an included tour, this not only helps you budget, but gives you peace of mind that you'll be taken care of, knowing that it's a Viking tried and tested tour. We then have optional excursions that you can pre-purchase via My Viking Journey or on board, and we split these into categories, as you can see on screen: local life, privileged access, work and world, so you can choose the type of excursion that's right for you and your interests. We then break these down further into activity levels: easy, moderate and demanding, so there are no hidden surprises. You know the expectation ahead before you set off. And we also detail the type of excursion depending on your interest, whether that's sightseeing, special interest, nature. So again, we have something for everyone. However, day 5 takes us to Aalborg in Denmark, and we dock from 12:30 in the afternoon until 7 p.m. in the evening. Aalborg is in the Jutland region of Denmark, and it's been named in the top 10 of Europe's happiest cities. Aalborg, founded by the Vikings in 900, is a compact city full of character. The buildings are inspired with Baroque and Renaissance architecture, and there's lots of cafes and restaurants to enjoy. And the city straddles both sides of the Limfjord Sound. Our included tour, lasting just under 3 hours, takes you from the ship, docked very close to the town centre. And that's the beauty of our small Viking ocean ships. We can get closer to the heart of the towns and cities than many other cruise lines. We embark on a walking tour of Aalborg, taken in Aalborg's Forfru Kirk, or Church of Our Lady, which still houses an original church bell dating back to the 12th century. You'll wander through the old town, pass by the Baroque-style city hall, before heading to a true Viking market, whilst you explore Aalborghus Castle. You'll also visit the home of Christian IV Guild, a secret community established by locals during the war in the historic Jens Bang's house, which is shown on screen. We have around 10 optional excursions in Aalborg, and these generally happen at various times throughout the day, so you're able to take part in multiple options. Now, these include beer tasting and visiting many of Aalborg's traditional pubs, or you can take a bike ride along the Aalborg Fjord, or discover local life and meet the Danes and discover what makes them some of the happiest people in Europe. Another excursion that I'd recommend is a day in the life of a Viking, where you head out of town and immerse yourself in the true Viking experience. Visiting a reconstructed site on the outskirts of the city, it was the hometown of Viking King Harald Bluetooth, and you'll hear many stories and tales of Viking past. Back on board the ship and continuing the theme and thirst for knowledge of Viking history, we are of course in Viking territory, so please try and visit our Viking Heritage Centre. It's found on every Viking Ocean ship on Deck 3, just before the restaurant. And this area of the ship, it charts the history of the Vikings through the ages, with costumes and artefacts which bring the Viking era to life. It's well worth a visit, and you can spend a good hour or so really learning about history past. We arrive on day 6 at 8:30 a.m. in Denmark's capital, wonderful Copenhagen, where we spend the next 12.5 hours. On average, we spend more time in port than many other cruise lines. I was so impressed the first time I visited Copenhagen that I went back twice afterwards on a city break. The city is really friendly, lots of outdoor living, especially around the harbour front with its elegant Scandinavian-inspired design shops. Again, the city is within walking distance of where the ship docks. Founded in the 10th century as a fishing village and offering over 850 years of history and heritage, Copenhagen has something for everyone, from quaint, brightly coloured houses in the Nyhavn or New Harbour area, once home to Hans Christian Andersen, to Kronborg Castle, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Let's discover more of this beautiful city in a short video.
Copenhagen is one of the world's most livable cities, and its Nyhavn waterfront is instantly recognizable. But there's much more to Copenhagen. With stunning architecture everywhere you look, one of my favorite ways to enjoy it is by water. Winding through Copenhagen's tranquil waterways, some of the best views of the city unfold before you at a relaxing pace. Back on land at beautiful Amalienborg, winter palace of the Danish royal family, the cobblestone plaza is home to a fascinating display of precision and formality that dates back to the 17th century. Another Copenhagen must-see is the Carlsberg Brewery. While its history and collection of over 10,000 bottles of beer is interesting, the art is what makes it special, including these beautiful elephant sculptures, plus a collection of works by the sculptor Rodin, and others set in a quiet garden. And of course, there's always shopping. A quick browse through the Royal Copenhagen shop is always a treat. If you're feeling energetic and would like to stretch your legs, a climb to the top of the Church of Our Saviour is worth every step. The absolute quiet is almost deafening as you take in remarkable views. Or for a thought-provoking experience, explore the Jewish Museum, designed by Daniel Liebeskind. The museum is a work of art in itself, and its displays provide a window into centuries of Jewish life in Copenhagen. And just outside the city is something really special, Roskilde's Viking Ship Museum, home to 5 original Viking ships and a wealth of information about the Viking Age. Copenhagen is truly a delightful city. We look forward to sharing with you its many sides.
We have over 13 optional tours today, and my advice would be to take the included tour to get your bearings in the city. And then if there's an optional that you really want to do, fit this in, but leave yourself a few hours to really soak up the atmosphere of the city. Our 4-hour included walking tour takes you with your guide to discover the history of the city, stopping to see the Little Mermaid statue, inspired by Hans Christian Andersen's famous fairy tale, and see Amalienborg Palace, the winter residence of the Queen of Denmark, as well as walk through the Citadel, one of Europe's best preserved fortresses surrounded by 8 moats. Optionals available today include visiting one of the famous Danish microbreweries. Now, beer has been at the heart of Danish culture for over 5,000 years. Or, for those with a sweet tooth, you can learn to make confectionery at a locally renowned pastry shop. However, no visit to Copenhagen would be complete without a visit to the famous Tivoli Gardens. Founded in 1843 and within the city centre, lush gardens, beautiful architecture, historic buildings, there's something for everyone. And their optional excursion includes a visit to these gardens and the Christiansborg Palace, seat of the Danish Parliament, and the house of the Queen's royal reception rooms. You can see tapestries on the wall that give you a glimpse into the history dating back over 1,000 years. Or, as we're in Viking territory, head to the Viking Museum, where you can marvel at the 5 11th century longboats on display. They were deliberately sunk a millennium ago to prevent enemy ships from entering the Roskilde fjord. You'll also visit the Museum Island to see the working boatyard where incredible replicas are made. This truly is a remarkable city, and one that you'll most definitely want to return to. So day 7 takes us to Germany's capital city, Berlin. Now we dock in a place called Warnemünde, a German seaside resort on the Baltic Sea. However, this is our gateway to Berlin, which is around 2.5 hours away by train. Now a thriving metropolis, Berlin is steeped in history and culture, packed with restaurants, cafes, recreational facilities and museums, where brand new futuristic buildings rub shoulders with history dating back to when Berlin was a medieval trading town. From 1961 to 1989, the Berlin Wall divided East and West Berlin, with the West Berliners accepting it as part of everyday life and decorating it with graffiti, remnants of which are still visible today. Our included tour today is slightly different to normal. We include return rail transfers to Berlin, departing early in the morning. You're then provided with a map and tips as you embark independently to discover Berlin your way. And you'll have approximately 4 hours in Berlin before heading back to the ship. I'd recommend this if you've possibly been to Berlin before and you're comfortable exploring under your own steam. If you've never been to Berlin before, I'd recommend you take one of our optional tours to ensure you get the best out of everything that Berlin has to offer. Our optional iconic sites excursion lasts 12 hours, departing the ship docking point of Warnemünde and travelling through picturesque countryside until you reach Berlin. You're then taken on a guided motor coach tour of the sights and sounds of the city. You'll explore the historic St. Nicholas Quarter and past Checkpoint Charlie, the former border crossing and partition of Berlin, as well as the City Hall of Schönberg. Time will also be spent at the Allied Museum, chronicling the occupation of Berlin. Lunch is also included on this tour. It's a long day. However, if this is your first visit to Berlin, I most definitely recommend this so you'll get the best out of the city. Another unique privileged access excursion, similar in length to the one I just described, and taken in many of the same sites, including Another unique privileged access excursion, similar in length to the one I just described, and taken in many of the sites, including the Berlin Wall and the Brandenburg Gate. You'll also visit the Reichstag building, Germany's first national house of parliament. You'll then head to the rooftop terrace of this remarkable building, the glass dome cupola, designed by Sir Norman Foster, where you'll have an unforgettable lunch. Few buildings in the world have witnessed such history. And to round off a perfect day, you'll then enjoy an organ concert at the impressive Berlin Cathedral. Another tour will take you to view the magnificent cityscape of Berlin by land and river. First, you set out by motor coach to view remnants of the Berlin Wall, Checkpoint Charlie, and the Brandenburg Gate. In the former East Berlin, see the Alexanderplatz with its 1,100-foot TV tower, Red City Hall, and Humboldt University. You'll then have lunch on board a riverboat as we sail along the Spree River. If you feel you would rather stay closer to the ship's docking point in Warnemünde, we have several tours which will take in the countryside of the local area or visit Rostock. Rostock is approximately 12 kilometres from Warnemünde. It's a Hanseatic port city on the Baltic Sea, and we actually have another included excursion you can take advantage of if you don't want to visit Berlin. Home to over 12,000 university students, you'll visit University Square and see the terracotta main building of the university. The 13th century town hall, originally built in Gothic style, transformed with a Baroque facade in the 18th century. And of course, have time to relax and browse in the pedestrianised streets of Kroppleinerstrasse before returning to the ship. This port of call gives you the best of both worlds. Visit vibrant Berlin or stay more local and discover the German countryside or picturesque Rostock. The choice is yours. Your ship departs at 6:30 p.m. as we set sail en route to our next port of call, the city of Gdansk in Poland. We arrive in Gdansk at 1 p.m. on day 8, one of the largest ports in the Baltic Sea. With a tradition spanning over 1,000 years, Gdansk is one of the richest in the old Hanseatic League. Extensively damaged during World War II, Gdansk has undergone extensive restoration to become a vibrant city, rich in culture and heritage. Gdansk is also, of course, known as the city of freedom and solidarity. Our included tour is a walking tour of Gdansk, lasting just under 4 hours, and takes in such sites as Green Gate, a former royal residence, the 15th century merchant palace of Artist Court, and of course, Solidarity Square, where a monument commemorates the sacrifices of Protestant shipyard workers shot in 1970. So one unique optional excursion we have is the kitchen table experience. Now, this image on screen is the kitchen table, which is found on all our ocean ships. It's a stunning state-of-the-art space found between Manfredi's Italian and the chef's table. In several ports of call on several of our itineraries, including Gdansk, you head out with our executive chef to the local market and handpick the ingredients that you'll use back on board the ship for your meal later on that day. It's not just a case of picking the ingredients, you'll help prepare the dishes back on board and be involved in the plating of our hand-picked ingredients before dining on the fruits of your labour. If you're a food lover and really want to learn more about the produce from this region, I'd recommend this.
Immerse yourself in local culture and cuisine at the kitchen table. It's an interactive culinary journey that begins at a local market, where you'll handpick ingredients with one of our talented chefs. Ingredients that will become the heart of regional dishes prepared by the ship's world-class culinary team. You'll enjoy a private meal during which you can learn cooking techniques, along with the art of preparation and plating. The kitchen table is a one-of-a-kind opportunity to shop, cook, and eat with the masters.
On the nearby Nugat River, you can step into the world of the Teutonic Knights, the famed medieval German military order, as you visit Malbork Castle. Completed in 1406, Malbork was the world's largest brick castle. It remains so to today and is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We depart Gdansk at 10 p.m. and the following day is a day at sea. It's the only sea day on this itinerary and gives you time to relax and explore your ship. Day 9 sees us cruise the Baltic Sea, and there are so many things to do on the ship as we while away the hours. I'd quite happily sit here all day and talk about our ships. And those of you that have travelled with us previously will know their beautiful Scandinavian designed understated elegance, carrying only 930 guests. Our fleet of small, soon-to-be 8 ships are identical, so it's very easy to get acquainted or reacquainted with the ship, the amazing crew, and you'll feel like it's a true home from home. If you head to Viking.com, you can also find up-to-date 360-degree images of the interiors of our ocean fleet. Remember, the dress code on board is smart casual, so there's no formal evenings or captain's dinners to think about. We're also an adults-only ship, so no children on board, and you'll also find no casinos. The living room is the hub of our ships, home to Munch moments every evening where you watch the works of Edvard Munch on the large digital screen while listening to live musicians. But it's a great location to have a morning coffee, catch up with your newfound friends, or sit back, relax, and read that book that you haven't got round to yet. Our spa facilities are open from early to late every day and are free of charge to use, from the hydrotherapy pool to the steam room to the snow grotto and the sauna. We also have a wide range of treatments which are bookable on board, and our price list for these can be found at reception. Now, the main pool is found on deck 7, and that has lots of loungers and seating, plus a retractable roof. So whatever the weather, we've got it covered, not forgetting our heated infinity pool on deck 7 next to the Aquavit terrace. I'd like to take a moment to let everyone know about the dining options on board and remind everyone just how inclusive our cruises are. You have beer, wine and soft drinks included with lunch and dinner on board, an excursion included in almost every port of call, complimentary specialty teas and coffees, complimentary room service 24/7, and of course free Wi-Fi. Some cruise companies charge an extortionate amount for this service. No corkage fee, so you're welcome to enjoy any purchases on board the ship without charge. Why wait until you get home to enjoy that bottle of German wine when you can enjoy it on board? And our drinks package is such good value at $19.95 per person per day, giving unlimited drinks up to the value of $15 per drink. And when it comes to food on board, there are so many choices. The World Cafe is found on deck 7, and that's where breakfast, lunch and dinner is served in a very casual and informal atmosphere. There's an open kitchen in the middle of the World Cafe, and there's lots of light throughout the floor-to-ceiling windows. And of course, al fresco dining on the Aquavit terrace, which is found next to the infinity pool. Mamsen's in the Explorers Lounge on deck 7 serve Norwegian favourites, including open sandwiches and homemade waffles, and it's open at various times throughout the day. Our main restaurant is open for breakfast and dinner and is waiter service. You can choose from our ever-changing daily menu at a time that suits you, and we have lots of tables for 2, so you don't have to share a large table. Our pool grill offers a casual lunch option, and this is found on deck 7 next to the main pool, where salads and burgers are the order of the day. And of course, we have our 2 alternative restaurants on deck 2. Manfredi's Italian, featuring fine Italian favourites, including my favourite, the bistecca Fiorentina steak. You must try this. It's exceptional, as the numerous photos I've taken on my phone will testify. And the chef's table with a change in tasting menu with wine pairing, featuring cuisine from around the world, including Norway, China, Southeast Asia, and the Med, to name but a few. Not forgetting the living room, where the bar serves pastries and open sandwiches, and 24-hour room service, completely free of charge. Of course, this image looks familiar to many of our regular guests. Our classical trio or our pianist will play during the afternoon tea service, which is served daily at 4 p.m. in the Winter Garden. Remember, at Viking, we do not make an additional charge to dine at any of these venues. And with your beer, wine and soft drinks included with your lunch and dinner, there's no cheque to sign at the end. Now, we could talk about the ship and the food all day. However, time is marching on and we're ready for our next port of call. It's day 10 and we're in Tallinn, Estonia. Docking at 7 a.m. in Estonia's capital Tallinn, set on the Baltic Sea, I was so impressed with this city, especially the medieval town, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, with its Gothic spires and Hanseatic buildings dating back to the 14th and 15th century. A very compact city, easy to explore. Our included tour takes you on a 3-hour walking tour through the heart of Tallinn, passing the Estonian Parliament and the Alexander Nevsky Cathedral, Estonia's main Russian Orthodox cathedral, which dates back to 1900. You'll also have time to explore the markets and stalls selling Estonian handicrafts. An optional excursion that I'd recommend is a Soviet flashback tour, which lasts around 2 hours, and you'll travel with your local guide who will tell you stories, serenade you with music and entertain you as you travel in an authentic Soviet bus through Tallinn and the surrounding area, hearing what life was really like under Soviet rule. To round off the afternoon, you'll enjoy a Soviet-style picnic accompanied by vodka shots. It's definitely a fun excursion to really discover what Estonia was like under Russian rule. We depart Tallinn at 3 p.m. and head to our next port of call, St. Petersburg, Russia. We're now on day 11 and we have 2 days to explore St. Petersburg. Spend an overnight docked on board your ship. This is a unique experience to get a real taste of St. Petersburg. And you're also covered by the ship's visa, which means you don't have to apply for an individual visa in advance. Now, please bear in mind that when you're covered by a ship visa, it means that when you go ashore, you must be part of a Viking excursion. You're unable to go ashore independently. Now, if you did want to go ashore independently, you'd need to apply for a separate visa at your own cost in advance of travel. But please check with our contact centre for further information. Now, if you did want to go ashore independently, you'd need to apply for a separate visa at your own cost in advance of travel. But please check with our contact centre for further information. St. Petersburg, formerly Leningrad, the city of the White Knights and home to over 250 museums, has also been called the Venice of the North due to its expanse of canals and lakes. I never really knew what to expect when I went to St. Petersburg, but I was most pleasantly surprised. It seems very European in style, relaxed, but you have so much history to absorb around every corner. This is truly a unique experience to discover the treasures of this vibrant city and rightly named Russia's cultural capital. St. Petersburg is a series of canals, and for a different perspective, discover the city from the water. It's a city where rivers and canals flow through several islands, and you see these truly spectacular buildings rising above you as you turn around every corner. You'll visit the Peter and Paul Fortress, which served as the city garrison and a prison for political prisoners, as well as a visit to the General Staff Building of the Hermitage, where you can admire works by Renoir, Van Gogh, Matisse and Picasso. Let's watch this short video to experience St. Petersburg from one of these many canals.
St. Petersburg is known as the Venice of the North. It is magical when viewed from its canals. Winding like sparkling ribbons through the heart of my favorite city, the canals were the vision of Tsar Peter the Great, who built St. Petersburg on islands in the delta of the Neva River. Of course, with canals come bridges, 320 in all. Watch your head. Founded in 1703 as a window to the west, St. Petersburg was intended to rival Europe's finest capitals. Today, historically significant sites still line the banks, along with some of my favorite hidden gems. This is New Holland Island, where Peter the Great used to store timber for his shipbuilding activities. There's history everywhere. Russia's capital until 1918, St. Petersburg remains the country's cultural heart. Come explore with us my favorite Russia, the real Russia, with Viking River Cruises. No one can share Russia with you like we can.
We have 16 optional excursions to choose from in St. Petersburg. And as you're here for 2 days, I would encourage you to try to combine several excursions to make the most of your stay here. Now, one of the reasons I say this is because remember, you're unable to venture ashore on your own, and the ship is docked further out of town. So a combination of excursions is recommended to see as much as you can of St. Petersburg. Our 3-hour included tour of the Gilded City gives you an overview of St. Petersburg, which will take you past the famous icons, including the Church of the Spilled Blood. You'll pass Palace Square and the magnificent Hermitage, as well as Senate Square. To get the best out of your 2-day stay in St. Petersburg, we have a 2-day excursion package, which is packed full of visits to all the key highlights and attractions of the city. Visiting the opulent rooms of Catherine Palace and its impressive gardens. You'll visit the onion-domed Church of Our Saviour of Spilled Blood, as well as the Hermitage Museum, which include the opulent staterooms of the Tsars. You'll also experience an evening at the ballet before returning to the ship. Another couple to highlight is one of our privileged access excursions, the Hermitage Behind Closed Doors. This is a full 8-hour excursion where you visit the Hermitage, which has over 3 million works of art from Russian heritage, and many more closed away from public view, which are now opened up on this truly priceless tour. To experience the authentic flavour on this tour, lunch is served in the staff canteen, a true privileged access excursion. Of course, no visit to St. Petersburg would be complete without a visit to a ballet performance, as you marvel at the grace and elegance of these refined dancers of the Mariinsky Theatre.
One of the most beautiful parts of Russia has to be the ballet. Many children here dream of becoming ballet dancers and start dance classes as early as the age of 4. The graceful pirouettes and precise acrobatic leaps seem effortless, yet the profession is incredibly demanding. The dancers put in countless hours of rehearsal daily, pushing their bodies towards an elusive goal: perfection. And when the curtain rises, every bit of the effort was well worth it. Russia is a country synonymous with ballet, which blossomed as entertainment for the royal court in the mid-1700s. Catherine the Great was such an avid patron that she had a personal theatre built in her winter palace to entertain guests after dinner. Today, Russian dancers continue to be the most sought after in the world, just as the icons Diaghilev, Pavlova, Nureyev and Baryshnikov were before them. Equally well known are Russia's elegant venues, the Bolshoi Theatre in Moscow and the Mariinsky Theatre in St. Petersburg. Both are magical settings for enjoying the fairy tale on stage. The ballet is a truly inspiring art form, and no trip to Russia would be complete without experiencing it. Viking River Cruises, sharing backstage access to Russia.
After a full 2 days in St. Petersburg, we head into day 13 and visit Finland's beautiful capital, Helsinki. And what a stunning city Helsinki is with its Art Nouveau architecture. Docking at 7 a.m, we have a full 8 hours to explore. I always remember flying via Helsinki, and before the plane landed, I caught a glimpse of these vast forests and lakes. The sun was shining, and I thought I need to visit this city and see more than the airport. I was so impressed with Helsinki when I went back. The city is full of fine, handsome buildings, lots of outdoors cafes and markets, parkland, a strong arts and crafts culture, and of course a spectacular waterfront setting. Helsinki is the largest city in Finland and is home to over 1.4 million people, and the Helsinki archipelago consists of over 300 islands. Named the White City of the North, an included 3-hour excursion takes you into the old city, where highlights include viewing the Helsinki Cathedral and the Parliament buildings. As I mentioned, there are over 300 islands that make up the Helsinki archipelago, And our optional kayaking adventure takes you out to explore these waterways with its wealth of bird life as you navigate the numerous islands. I really recommend this to enable you to get a taster of the great outdoors of Helsinki. As we edge closer to the end of our voyage, we reach day 14 and arrive in Stockholm at 9 AM. However, prior to arriving in this amazing city, spread over 14 islands, you navigate an archipelago of islands that truly took my breath away. The best place to be is on deck, so you can get a view on both sides of the ship. Some of these islands are uninhabited, some have traditional wooden huts which are used as second homes, but they are absolutely breathtaking. I first visited Stockholm a few years ago in early May. The sun was out, the sky was blue, the water's calm, and I guarantee every Stockholm resident was out enjoying the open air. The ship docks within walking distance of the city centre, and Stockholm has a diverse architecture. However, a visit to Gamla Stan, our old town, is a must to get a glimpse of old Stockholm and its German-influenced architecture. We're docked overnight here, so there's lots of opportunities to get out and explore Stockholm and the surrounding area. Let's see everything that Stockholm has to offer with a short video.
Nestled amid sparkling waters on 14 islands is vibrant Stockholm. Its impressive architecture and colours beaming a welcome invitation. Stockholm rose to prominence in the 17th century and has left a fascinating trail of history in its wake, all just waiting to be explored. One stop you should make is at the Vasa Museum. It houses a medieval warship that sailed just once. Her immaculate detailing and armament caused Vasa to be so top-heavy that she managed to sail just 1,400 yards and then sank into history. Or head to the heart of Gamla Stan for the beautiful Nobel Museum. It's been said the museum is a caretaker of history, chronicling some of the most powerful events, people, and inventions of our time. And all the winners are here too, gliding on a conveyor belt through the museum. For something different, take in Stockholm by water. Nearly 30% of this metropolis is made up of waterways. And the abundant coastline serves up a never-ending collage of breathtaking views. You can enjoy an entirely different perspective by paddling Stockholm's tranquil waterways through the heart of the city. A fun alternative is the ice bar, where the entire setting is created using 40 to 50 tons of crystal clear ice from the pure waters of one of Europe's pristine rivers. Or head out to the country to explore Sigtuna. In the 13th century, this quaint town was actually the most important city in Sweden. Nearby Skokloster Slott holds quite a secret. Parts of it were actually never finished. The palace does, however, own an impressive collection of medieval weaponry. Stockholm is a wonderful mosaic of natural beauty, fascinating history, and timeless traditions. We look forward to sharing with you Stockholm's many treasures.
In Stockholm, I'd recommend you taking the included panoramic tour to get your bearings. And these run at various times throughout the day, lasting approximately 2 hours. It's a mix of motor coach and walk-in, taking you past City Hall, the Royal Palace and the Royal Opera, before taking you to the Old Town for a leisurely walk through the cobblestone streets. You can then spend time in Stockholm. You can buy last-minute purchases. You can have a drink in one of the many outdoor cafes, or just walk around enjoying this city of 57 bridges that connects Stockholm to the mainland. Like in Helsinki, we offer a kayaking excursion to take you out to the island of Langholmen, where you can see the city from a different perspective, and you'll enjoy a traditional Swedish breakfast in the local cafe. Alternatively, another of our optionals takes you to Drottningholm Palace and Court Theatre. a UNESCO World Heritage Site, one of the world's most famous theatrical venues, restored during the last century with the stage machinery and props all in working order. And it doesn't end there. You then head back on a historical ship to central Stockholm. After a full day exploring this city, you'll definitely want to come back. And it's back on board for a final night on your ship. Maybe listen to the live band in Torshavn before we get ready to disembark the following day, day 15. It doesn't have to be time to head home. Our post-extension packages can allow you to explore Stockholm in more detail with a 2-night hotel extension in the city's waterfront area, or head off to Iceland's Golden Circle for 4 days to experience this remarkable island. If, of course, you do have more time, you can combine this itinerary and the Midnight Sun Cruise in July 2023 for an epic 29-day adventure with our Baltic Jewels and Midnight Sun Cruise. Well, that was a whistle-stop tour of Viking Homelands, and it truly is a unique itinerary, combining the best of Scandinavia and the Baltic in 15 full days, taking in the sights, the history, the sounds, the heritage of this region, with onboard lectures from our historians and a variety of excursions to help you get the best out of this region. You will want to stay longer. Combined with long days in port and overnight stays in Bergen, St. Petersburg and Stockholm, Viking Homelands must be at the top of your list when thinking about your next Viking voyage. So welcome back, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that short presentation on Viking Homelands. It's one of my favourites, and if you've not thought about it before, really think about travelling maybe next year or the year after, because it really ticks a lot of boxes. As I mentioned, you get the best of Norway, some fantastic scenery, and then you also see the Baltic capitals as well. So very, very nice one to consider. And you can get a lot more information on that itinerary on our website. So just head over to Viking.com. So there's a few questions that have been coming through this evening, and I'll do my best to answer as many of them as I can in the time that I've got. And if I can't, then the great team behind the scenes will do their best to get back to you on the questions that have came through. So here we go. Let's see where in the world that we're going to be heading over to. And the first one is, we're staying in the UK to start off with. I've got one from Joan, and Joan has sent an email in from Portsmouth. So hi, Joan. Thanks for writing into Viking.TV. As I mentioned this in the presentation, but Joan's question is, with the overnight stays in St. Petersburg, is it possible to go off and explore on your own? So as I mentioned in the St. Petersburg section, it's not, you can't go off on your own. Because you're part of the ship visa, whenever you leave the ship, you've got to go on a Viking excursion, whether that's an included excursion or whether that's an optional excursion. So there's no independent shore excursions. You must travel as part of the Viking group. And if you did want to travel off independently in the 2 days that you've got in St. Petersburg, you would need to apply for a visa in advance of travel. So, for example, if you were doing the Waterways of the Sars River cruise, for example, on that cruise, you need to apply for an independent visa in advance for arrival in and out of Russia. So it would be the same process that we'd need to follow. If I'm honest, you know, we have so many excursions to choose from. I really would, you know, stick to the ship visa, take advantage of one of the includeds, do an optional excursion, and you will get the best that St. Petersburg has to offer. And also where the ship is docked, it is further out of the city. So it is a good distance, depending on traffic, to get you into the centre of St. Petersburg. So long answer for a short question. You're covered by the ship visa as long as you stick to the ship excursions when you go ashore. So thanks very much for sending that in, John. Much appreciated. We are off to... actually, the UK ones are coming in this evening. Got one from Brian in Belfast. Hi, Brian. Thanks for writing in. Can you comment on how suitable this itinerary would be for someone with limited mobility? It is you know, this itinerary depends what your ability is, or your mobility issues are. You know, first of all, remember with the excursions that we do have them listed in order of you know, how easy or difficult they are to go on. So you can make that decision before you travel, or before you pick an excursion, if you think it's right for you, or if you think you're going to be able. But actually, if you think of the main cities that we go to, a lot of your included tours are on motor coach, which is great. So you can really just sort of sit back and admire the views out the window. And we do have quite a lot of walking tours. The one thing I would say is in a lot of the cities there are cobbled streets. So if you're maybe not brilliant on cobbles, maybe reconsider that itinerary. But a lot of them operate by coach, so you can stick to the coach tours. And we also have stopping points, and then you can feel how easy or difficult it will be to maybe sort of leave the coach and maybe join the walk from there. But this itinerary is not too bad for mobility issues. But if you've got any specific questions, speak to our contact centre, and we can give other recommendations for you, or we can answer any questions that you've got on this specific itinerary. So thanks very much for your question there, Brian. Much appreciated. Actually, it's a similar question to the first one that came through, actually. This is from Carmen in Tampa. Hi, Carmen. Same question to Joan about visas. So answered that earlier. Covered by the ship visa if you do a ship tour. Want to go off independently, you need to apply for a visa in advance through the Russian embassy. So thank you for that. Go over to the States. Again, we're going to San Diego. And we have a question from Igor in San Diego. Hi, Igor. Is there a better side of the ship to be on for enjoying the best views of the scenic sailing? I don't really find that there is. You know, like I said before, the great thing about our ship is we've got so much space, whether it's the Explorer Lounge on deck 7 and 8 at the front of the ship with the panoramic floor-to-ceiling windows, or you go up a deck to deck 8 and then you've got so much space outside. That's really where you want to be. You know, when I was going through the archipelago coming into Stockholm, which is absolutely breathtaking, I've never experienced anything like it. You know, the scenery in Scandinavia is stunning. The fjords of Norway are amazing. But it was my first time sailing into Stockholm, and this archipelago of islands just absolutely blew me away. It was just absolutely stunning. It was early in the morning, and the sun was out. It was blue skies. It was beautiful. And I was just in my sort of stateroom for the first 20 minutes or so thinking, this is amazing, this is amazing. But you want to know what's happening out on the other side of the ship. So you just head up and you head out on deck, you take your jacket with you, you go to the Explorer's Lounge, and you can see everything that's happening. And that's the same, you know, when you come out of Eidefjord, for example, you want to be on deck, you want to be at the top of the ship to see what's happening on both sides. You know, if you compare that to river cruises in Europe, you know, again, it's the same thing. You know, you want to be on all that vast, expansive deck space so you can see what's happening on both sides of the river. So again, there's no real preference as to what side that you're on. But when you're going through an area of outstanding beauty, you want to be out on deck and seeing what is happening at every side of the ship, because it is absolutely spectacular. So hopefully that answers your question. Thanks for that, Igor. One from John in London. Hi, John. This is a foodie question from John. Will there be the opportunity to try local foods on board? I'm keen to sample the Norwegian Browns goat's cheese I've heard so much about. I love the Norwegian Browns, the Norwegian brown goat's cheese. It's called Gjetost. And if you've ever been on our ships before, or if it's your first time travelling with us, head up to Mamsen's Nordic Deli on deck 7 in the Explorer's Lounge, and you get the waffle, and they've got this fantastic brown goat's cheese. which is quite sweet in taste, but you can try it out there. So that's as far as the goat's cheese is concerned. But in terms of sort of other sort of regional cuisines, we generally on the ship, we try and have food in our restaurants, whether it's the World Cafe or the main restaurant, that are associated with the area of the world that you're visiting through. And at times I've been on board the ship and we've had the chefs preparing local dishes outside on the Aquavit terrace. So again, there's opportunity to taste them as well. And if you want tastes from all corners of the world, then you head to the chef's table and have our 5-course tasting menu, which has cuisine from all over the world on rotational menus. But if you're in the Nordic or in the Scandinavian countries, there will be the opportunity to taste various cuisines. The other thing that I would say actually is especially on this tour, a lot of the excursions that we operate on land involve food. So whether you're in Copenhagen or you're in Gdansk doing the chef's table, there's opportunity to go with a guide round local food stalls on the excursions, or you can go with the chef on the chef's table excursion out to the local market, get the produce, and then you come back on board and book it. So there's lots and lots of opportunities for that. No problem at all there. So thank you very much for that question, John. Got one from Stella. It doesn't say where you are, Stella, but hi, thanks for tuning in. What currency is best to bring when visiting so many different countries on one trip? Credit cards are widely accepted wherever you go. Tell your bank before you travel that you're traveling overseas so that they can keep a watch on your card. But if you're in the main ports of call, in the main cities, then you're absolutely fine. The credit cards are completely covered. That is the best means. We don't do currency exchange on board the ship, but what you can do is you can just go into a local currency dealer on arrival and you can get currency change there. I'm trying to remember what I'd done for Russia when I was in St. Petersburg, and I'm sure I just used my credit card for a purchase in the gift shop, because you've not actually got a lot of chance to venture off. You've no chance to go off independently. So most of the purchases in St. Petersburg would probably be when you're in a gift shop there. But in the other areas, then you can certainly use your credit card, or you can maybe take some dollars and just get them changed at a local currency dealer for some local currency if you're going around the markets or the stalls or anything there. So yeah, I mean, you could, that's my advice for that. Use credit cards in the shops that will obviously take credit cards. Advise your bank in advance. Maybe take some dollars or sterling with you, and then just get changed small amounts locally if you're just using it in, say, local shops or markets. So thanks very much for that question there, Stella. We have one from Maureen in Los Angeles. Hi, Maureen. I hope you're keeping well. It must be afternoon time in Los Angeles, so thanks very much for sending the email in. Can you comment on what the weather will be like in September? Hoping to take this trip in 2022. So the cruises run between May and September, and in September we only actually have a couple of voyages, which are generally towards the start of September. Temperature wise, I'd say you're between maybe sort of 14 degrees, 17 degrees centigrade. So that's 58 Fahrenheit, 64 degrees Fahrenheit. But it can get rainy. You can have some glorious sunny days as well. But when you go into September, the nights sort of start to draw in a little bit, and you will need maybe layers with you to make sure that you're covered, especially in the evenings. But weather can be mixed. The last time I went up there, I went up early May, which is quite similar to September when you look at temperatures, and it was bathed in blue skies and glorious sunshine. So again, like everywhere, it can be a real hit and a miss for the weather. But take layers with you. You know, don't bother with an umbrella because we have them stored in the staterooms or when you leave the ship. So that is all completely covered. But, you know, weather-wise, still generally fairly mild, little bit chillier at night. So you'll not go wrong with that itinerary. Whatever time of year that you travel, it's a phenomenal time. As I said, you know, you go at the start of May, you've got the snow melting, the waterfalls are really spectacular. And as you head into September time, the colours start to change. But it's a really, really nice nice time to visit. So yeah, hopefully that's answered your question there, Maureen. One from Roger in Phoenix. Hi, Roger. You've got, how far is Berlin from the port where the ship docks? Which excursion would you recommend to see, and why? So in Berlin, the ship docks in a place called Warnemünde, and it's actually a German seaside resort. It's a coastal resort on the Baltic Sea. And it's around 2.5 hours to get you into Berlin. So it's the nearest point you can actually get to, really, on the ship to get you into Berlin. And it's all very, very well managed to take you in there. But when you're in Berlin, if you've never been to Berlin before, the included sightseeing tour is independent. It's an independent tour, so you have to really go off with a map under your own steam and really discover the Berlin that you want to see. But for the time constraints that you've got in Berlin, I really don't know. If you've never been to Berlin before, I don't know how much you would actually get out of that, because you will have to be very precise on timings to get you to the various points across the city that you want to get to. I would personally take the included one of the optional panoramic sightseeing tours, where you'll get the key highlights of the city in around 4 or 5 hours. You'll have a knowledgeable guide that will tell you everything that you want to know about the area that you're visiting. They'll answer any questions for you, so you're not losing out on anything. You know, it's 2.5 hours there, it's 2.5 hours back. You've got about 5 hours in the city. So an included tour, an optional tour is really the best way to go. And the panoramic sightseeing tour, optional tour, is probably the best one to get the key highlights out of it. The other option, of course, is, you know, if you didn't want to go into Berlin, we have some other excursions local, one which will take you to Rostock, which is only around 12 kilometres away, a lovely Hanseatic town on the coast. And that is a really nice place just to take the included tour. And then you can go off independently if you want and spend some time in Rostock before returning to the ship. And then we have other excursions from Warnemünde as well, which will take you into the German countryside. So roundabout answers there. But what I would probably say is, if you've never been to Berlin before, take an optional tour that will show you the best of what Berlin has to offer, because you've got a knowledgeable guide and you're packing a lot into a short period of time as well. So that is certainly my answer to you there, Roger. So thanks very much for sending in that. We have one from Hazel in New York. Hi, Hazel. Thanks for emailing in. It's weather related again, or clothing related. Any recommendations on what to pack for a summer departure? You know, you might be lucky. The weather can be exceptional up in Scandinavia and the Baltic. It can get a little bit chillier at night. So again, packing layers. You know, if it's too hot, you can take your jumper off, really. Pack your sunscreen. In some areas, you know, St. Petersburg, for example, can get exceptionally hot in the summer. So it's really, you know, it is a land of all seasons. You really need to take several layers and pack a waterproof jacket, just so that you are sort of completely covered. You know, if you're in Stockholm in the height of the summer, you know, you want to be sitting out and you know, on the banks of the fjord, having a coffee. If the weather's great, got your t-shirt on. But likewise, if you go up into the high mountains of Norway at the same time of year, you know, it could be a bit mistier or chillier. So again, just pack for all seasons is really the best way to look at it there. We've got one from Anne in Boston. Hi, Anne. There are so many great post-cruise extension options. Which would be your personal recommendation? Well, my favourite extension is when you take the train journey from Oslo over to Bergen to join the ship. So Oslo is a really vibrant city. You know, you've got the museum culture there. It's very laid back. You've got lots of sort of cafes and restaurants that you can wander around. Very accessible city to walk around. You've then got Bergen, which, you know, I've said many times it's my favourite city, and it's really difficult to pinpoint why it's my favourite city. There's just a really nice atmosphere. You've got the high mountains that back the fjord. The old Bergen area is absolutely exceptional, and you know, you see you go to the fish market, you see the fishing boats coming in and emptying their produce, and it's a really compact city to wander around. But the best part of it is the train ride, which goes between Oslo and Bergen, which is truly spectacular. So you really see the interior part of Norway on the 7-hour train journey, and all the trains that have large windows, you know, so you can always get a good view. There's lots of tunnels to go through as well, but it really gives you a taste of some of these remote communities that you find in the interior of Norway, and then you've got the two large cities combined at either end. So that's the itinerary that I would certainly, the optional pre-extension if you're starting in Bergen, or post if you're ending in Bergen. So that's my recommendation. Or to combine more of the Baltic, head over to Iceland, and we can offer that either pre or post. But for me, Oslo train ride, Bergen is an exceptional itinerary, an exceptional excursion extension. So it's definitely one to be thinking about. So thank you very much for that. We have one from Stuart in Chicago there. Hi, Stuart. We've got how many overnights do we have in this cruise, and how close do we dock to each port? So you'll have an overnight stay in Bergen, and the ship docks Bergen at 6 p.m. So you've really got that full day on the second day, and all day on the first day, depending on when your flight arrives. Generally, if you're traveling from North America, a lot of the flights would arrive in early morning, so you would probably find that you've got a full day and a half there. So you'll have the full overnight in Bergen. You've then got an overnight stay in St. Petersburg, which really gives you 2 full days in St. Petersburg to explore. And that's fairly unique because there's a lot of cruise companies out there which will only give you 1 full day in St. Petersburg. So you've got an overnight in St. Petersburg, giving you 2 days to explore. And then you've got Stockholm overnight stay. Now, remember, with your overnight stay, you would disembark the ship in Stockholm at 8 in the morning and you arrive at around 9 the day before. So it really gives you a full day in Stockholm, which you can experience Stockholm well into the evening, and then you'll leave the ship the following morning. Or if you want to experience Stockholm more, then take the 2-night extension and you'll stay in a really central hotel on the waterfront area of Stockholm. But this is a really unique itinerary. Only 1 sea day, and then you've got the 3 overnight stays, as I said, Bergen, St. Petersburg and Stockholm. So it's really, you know, combining so many different things into one cruise. So thanks very much for your your question there, Stuart. We've got one from John in Seattle. Hi, John. Thanks for tuning in this evening. Actually, I've answered this one. How long is the train journey to Berlin? From Warnemünde, it's around 2.5 hours. I'm trying to decide between Berlin and Rostock. Berlin, you know, is Berlin. Ask yourself the question: how many times are you going to head back to Germany? How many times are you going to come back to Europe? And if you, you know, want to experience, if you think, you know, I might not be back in Europe for a couple of years, Berlin is the iconic city that you must visit. And as I said, the panoramic optional tour will give you a taster of this phenomenal city. So I think that if it's maybe going to be your only time over to this part of the world, head for the German itinerary, for the Berlin itinerary, sorry. But if you're going to be back in Europe, Rostock is a great little place to visit, and it's not inaccessible to get to, but it's more difficult to get to than a lot of the big cities like Berlin. So it's probably a bit off the beaten track, but it's a really nice place to visit, actually. So, you know, a Hanseatic town. It's only about half an hour or so from Warnemünde, from where the ship docks. So I would recommend Rostock. It's also where you find that our river ships are built. And actually, you know, just really, actually, I went off track about what I was going to say there. It was going to be very interesting, and in my eyes, it was going to be very interesting what I was going to say. And it's completely escaped me what I was going to say. Oh, that was it. So it's came back to me now. If you don't do Berlin and you're a fan of our river cruises, think about the Elegant Elbe itinerary. Elegant Elbe itinerary is phenomenal. It's one of our smaller ships, and you actually spend some time in Berlin and some time in Prague. So that's another option if you're thinking of coming back to Europe and you want to see Berlin, then you can certainly visit that as well. So thanks very much for your question there, Jonathan. Much appreciated. Let's see what else we have. We have one from Jill, who has contacted us from the States. Hi, Jill. I'm not sure where in the States you are, but thanks very much for watching Viking TV. What happens on the kitchen table experience? Well, the kitchen table experience is it's where you go with the executive chef from the ship, and this excursion, it is an excursion, but only takes around 12 people, and you go with the executive chef to the local market, and you'll look at the ingredients. He'll tell you all about the produce and sort of where it came from. You pick the produce from the market, and that's supplemented obviously with other materials on board the ship. You come back on board the ship, and then you work with the chef to create your lunch or your dinner, and then you'll sit within the kitchen table and with your fellow companions and have your meal. It's a really, really unique experience, because if you're a foodie and you really want to learn more about the food of the region that you're visiting, it's one to actually visit. But the chef's table experience is unique in itself. And actually, I will say, even if you're not taking the kitchen table experience, you know, if you're going to Manfredi's or the chef's table for your dinner one night, just sneak around the corner and have a look at the way that this room is set up, because it's absolutely stunning. And it's state-of-the-art equipment, and it's a real taster of, you're really involved in it. You know, you go ashore, you pick your food, you get you pick the ingredients, your chef tells you all about your cooking, you're involved in the making of it, and then you'll have this on-board dining experience. So it's really worth doing, and we do it in a lot of the destinations that we actually visit. So thanks very much for that question there. We have it's more of a practical question on this one. It's from Julia in New Jersey in the States. Hi, Julia. We've booked in June 2022. We can't wait. That's good. I don't think any of us can wait to get back on board the ship. We're traveling with friends. Is there a way that we can make sure our staterooms are next to each other? If you, yeah, I mean, yeah, I suppose if you booked your stateroom and they're in the same grade and they're far apart, then just speak to a call centre team and then they'll be able to arrange that for you. But nowhere on the ship, it's a small ship, it's 8 decks, 930 guests. Wherever you are on the ship, you're not really that far away from anybody. What I would recommend actually is if you are travelling with friends is take a cabin on either side of the ship. So, if you want the best views, then you can, you can see either side from each other's cabin. That's one way of looking at it. And remember, if you're wanting to dine with other friends that are travelling under a different reference number, you can request them to join you for dinner if you're making any restaurant reservations in our alternative restaurant. So that's just another thing to consider as well. So thank you very much for that question, Julia. One from Bill in San Francisco. Hi, Bill. There's a lot from the States coming in tonight. Thank you very much. For the time we're in St. Petersburg, what would be recommended that we do here? I don't think we'll be able to come back a second time. Well, the great thing is, as I mentioned, you don't have to worry about any visa issues because you're covered by the ship visa. To get the most out of St. Petersburg, if you're only going to do one excursion in the whole 15-day itinerary, do the 2-day excursion, the St. Petersburg package, because you will then get everything covered. I mean, you could spend a whole week in St. Petersburg, but the 2-day excursion package is definitely one of the best to get the best. You visit the Hermitage, you've got the panoramic tour, and the Church of the Spilled Blood. You'll see everything or most, as much as you can see in 2 days on this 2-day tour. So that's the option I would look at. The other excursion that I really thought was amazing was actually doing the canal experience. And overall, it's about an 8-hour itinerary where you do see St. Petersburg from land and coach with your experienced guide, but you go on the canal boat, which takes you right through the canals of St. Petersburg, and some of these, it's just such a unique experience. I suppose it's like when you go to Amsterdam and you go on the canal experience there, and St. Petersburg has got so much water and canals, but I probably never really appreciated how much until I was on this small boat venturing through the streets of St. Petersburg, and you've got all these iconic buildings that are at either side of you as you look up. So that's about an 8-hour excursion. I would probably maybe consider that one if you didn't go for the 2-day excursion package. So that would certainly be my 2 recommendations there. So thanks very much for your question, Bill. We've got a ship question again. One from Robert in San Antonio, which I think is Texas. Yeah. Hi, Robert. Thanks for emailing in. You mentioned about afternoon tea on board. Does this cost anything extra, and do we need to book it in advance? No and no. So the afternoon tea experience, it takes place in the Winter Garden, 4 o'clock every afternoon. It's included in the price. You'll have the string quartet, you'll have the guitarist, or you have the pianist playing as you have your afternoon tea, which has got cakes and sandwiches and all manner of different types of tea. So there's no charge for that. And as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, there's no charge for any of our alternative restaurants. There's some cruise lines that will charge you $30 odd a head just to eat in a different restaurant. Manfredi's and the chef's table, there's no charge there whatsoever. Room service, there's no charge for, and the same goes for afternoon tea. There's no charge included. There's no charge for the afternoon tea service, so you can budget. And that's a great thing, if I'm honest, about Viking, that we include as much as you need included. So you've got your free Wi-Fi, you've got your shore excursion, you've got your beers and wine with your lunch and dinner. You've got your room service where there's no charge for. So there's very little to pay when you leave that ship. In fact, if you've cruised with any other cruise lines, you'll probably find that your lowest bill will be on a Viking ship, because it's such good value. I'm not being biased, obviously, because I work for Viking. It is that we think of everything, every single thing that you want to enjoy your vacation when you're on board. We've thought about it. It's you'll have a great time. Afternoon tea's phenomenal though, so enjoy that. Got one more in from Paula in Austin, Texas. Hi, Paula. Another Texas email in. What's the experience like on board? So again, it's more as another ship question. What's the experience like on board? What entertainment do you offer on board? So I think the one thing really where we're different at Viking is that it's not all centred around one big Broadway style show that'll happen at 7 p.m. at night. So there's a variety of things happening around the ship. You've got Torshavn in the on deck 2. Torshavns are sort of little club area. Actually, it's a beautiful little sort of bar that's hidden away. And would you believe that some people don't even discover that Torshavn is there until the last day of the ship? It's of the sailing. It's so well hidden. But there's a phenomenal Viking band that play there every evening with live music. So that's definitely a great experience. But then we also have our classical trio, and that will play either maybe in the Explorers Lounge or in the living room area. They have monk moments around 6 p.m. at night, accompanied by music. We have our entertainment team on board, and from past experience, we have the Beatles and an ABBA experience where it's sort of live singing and dancing. We have movies under the stars. So obviously, entertainment-wise, we give you a Bluetooth headset. We turn the chairs around, the sun loungers around on deck 7 in the pool area. You've got this large screen, and you're watching one of the latest movie releases. And because they're Bluetooth headsets, you're not disturbing your sort of fellow companions there. We also have dancing under the stars, or we have dancing into the midnight sun on certain cruises where you're up on deck. So there's an awful lot going on, as well as obviously having the onboard lectures and the historians to answer, to keep you amused as well. So there's an awful lot going on. It's an action-packed day. And the Viking Daily that comes out every evening and it's presented in your stateroom will give you all up to the minute information about what's happening the following day, so you can plan exactly what you want to do. So I'm getting excited about being back on board the ship, actually. So not long now. Thanks very much for that question, Paula. I think we are probably, in the time that we've got, we're probably coming to the end of most of these questions. Just one final one from Donald in Denver. We've travelled with various other cruise lines in the past, and we are looking forward to experience this itinerary. What makes Viking different? I think it's really got to be the inclusions, the small ship experience, the quality of our onboard experience, and the quality of our local guides, to make sure that you get the best out of the destination that you're in. And I think from the questions that have come through, there seems to be fewer tonight than in previous nights, but thanks very much for sending in the questions that you've got. As I said, it was only really a brief presentation to give you an overview of what to expect on Viking Homelands, and likewise with the questions. If there's any that we've not been able to get round to or haven't been able to answer, then the behind the scenes team will definitely do their best to answer as many questions as you can. So thanks very much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation, and hopefully we'll see you on board in the not too distant future. And thanks again. Thank you.